Sister, she's still on FaceTime watching all this, and she's like, what the f***? And so at this point, Sister has had enough. She can't let this continue. And she goes and she tells their mom what she saw. And of course, Mom is like, oh, hell no. And she immediately calls Ashley and she's like, we're getting you a flight and you're coming home. And so finally, they all agree. Ashley is getting out of that toxic situation. She's getting on the next flight back to Canada. Even Jack agrees. I mean, he understands that she's leaving on the next flight. However, there's a problem. It's 2022, and the pandemic is still kind of going on. And Ashley is required to get a negative COVID test before she can get on a plane and fly international. And so, unfortunately, she can't fly that day. The soonest she can fly is in 3 days. But then, the next day, it all goes wrong. So they're at the apartment, and I guess Jack isn't doing too well, and he finally realizes that he's about to lose control of her for good. And so he provokes an argument with her, and they start fighting. And I'm sure he's like screaming at her, and then pow, he starts hitting her. And he hits her again and again. And then he picks up the kitten that he bought, and he throws it against the wall. And Ashley is horrified, and she runs out of the apartment to a neighbor's house, and the neighbor intervenes, and everyone calms down. But Ashley knows this isn't over, and Jack isn't done. So after a bit, she low-key tries to message her sister back in Canada. But unfortunately, with the time difference, it's like 3 a.m. there. So Sister and everyone else there is asleep. And at some point during all this, Jack finally loses it. And he grabs Ashley and she tries to get away, but he overpowers her. Then he reaches out, grips her neck, and he starts strangling her hard. And when that doesn't finish her off, he grabs a knife and boom, he stabs her right in the chest. And he stabs her again and again and again until she's unalived. And he ends up stabbing her 90 times. 90. Then he goes to his Facebook page and he changes his profile picture to this picture of him and Ashley smiling. And he writes the caption, "Mine forever." Yikes. Meanwhile, back in Canada, Ashley's family wakes up to all these missed messages from her. But now they can't get a hold of her. So they reach out to sort of a friend that Ashley knows back in England, and that friend goes over to Jack's apartment to check on Ashley, and she knocks and no one answers, but she can hear something going on inside the apartment. So she calls 999, the emergency number there, and then police show up, and in the apartment, they find Ashley's body there. And so, bam, police arrest Jack. Here's his creepy-ass mugshot. And he ends up pleading guilty to her murder, and he's sentenced to 23 years to life in prison.
A British man has been sentenced to life in prison for killing a young BC woman who'd gone